Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games. Last week, I was floundering around with a sealed gauntlet, and the one and only InfameousNeo volunteered to come on, help me out, and let me know how I could take my sealed pool and maximize its value. So, welcome, InfameousNeo, one of the final 12 for the 100k tournament. Let's see what he's got to say.
I sort of know what you should be playing already, but I just want to go through how I would go through this pool. So go to your filters.
Okay.
Uncheck everything except blood.
Except blood. Okay. Just start there. Okay.
Including the artifacts as well.
Oh, did I not uncheck that? No, I didn't. Okay.
Okay. So you look at this. You see that you've I guess uncheck resources as well on the second row.
And I have nothing. Is what you're about to say?
Yeah.
Resources. How do I uncheck resources?
It's the second from last gray icon.
This?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, in all of blood, what the first thing you want to check for is bombs. You have 2 bombs. Then you want to check for removal, which is in the shard you have basically 1. Taint's kind of a removal, but Vampire Kiss is the good removal. And then you look at the rest of the troops, and realistically, playable troops, you have about 3. So
yeah, I mean, he's interesting, right?
He's pretty good. The Celestial of Dawn actually comes into play for free for your opponent if you control the Demon of Dusk, so they don't even need to be in Diamond to play it. So basically, when you play Demon of Dusk, you're betting on being able to kill them with the flight damage before they ever draw the Celestial of Dawn. Obviously, that gets increasingly more treacherous the longer it stays on the board, and then you can just write off blood at this point, because you may have 2 decent cards, but your pool is not very deep. You have 16 total blood cards. Most of them are bad. Diamond, just go to the next shard. Here you've got some good stuff. Ethereal Caller's great. Ghost Feather's great. Chimera Guard's great. Pyrosaur. Basically, how I do it is I look through each shard individually. There's 2 removal cards as well, which are Pride's Fall, the second on the bottom. And that looks pretty good. So at this point, I'd say that Diamond's a possibility. Right. It's got some pretty good troops. It's got a relatively deep pool, a lot of options for good cards and removal. And in the deck that Diamond mostly hangs around in, which is Ruby Diamond, the low-cost troops are kind of what you want anyway. So it looks pretty good. And Pyrosaur's pretty powerful.
Yeah, he's pretty much a bomb, right?
Yeah. And any card that just creates cards for free.
Right.
Is generally quite good, which is why Reese is so powerful, because it just creates, extra robots every turn. And Pyrosaur may only be creating a 1/1 Phantom every turn, but it's still 1 more card that you didn't have to draw, and you just got onto the board for free. So yeah, he's pretty damn good.
It seems like I don't remember the card's name, but the card that really takes advantage of having lots of guys on the board. Like I don't have the global buffs, that kind of stuff.
You have 2 Cry of Adamanthe, which is +2/+2 to all attacking troops.
Oh, I do. Okay, where is that?
It's the first card there. But having said that, I usually don't play more than one of those.
There we go. Okay, so I do have that. Yeah, this looks really strong, seeing that also.
It's strong. The Phantoms also have flight, so there isn't a lot of flight in this set. And if they do have flight or ways of blocking flight like reach, then you can get rid of it usually with Pride's Fall or metal or something like that. Just having a lot of flight troops is kind of a win con. You don't really need to buff them. Just being able to go over the top of the opponent's troops and being able to chump all day long, because you can make 1 or 2 Phantoms every turn, is quite strong.
I guess the question is, how easy is it to remove Pyrosaur Summoner in this card pool?
It's pretty easy for people to remove Pyrosaur. There are definitely ways to do it, but he is what we refer to as a bomb, because if he comes down and he is unanswered, then he will likely win the game.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's always an answer to every card, pretty much. But a bomb is a card that if it remains unanswered, it's just gonna win.
Sure.
That's kind of the same with Demon of Dusk. The problem with Demon of Dusk is that it creates answers and gives them to your opponent, and potentially they can draw them. That's its drawback. But yeah, I mean, Diamond's pretty strong. I would keep it in my mind here, and then check out the next one, which is
Ruby. Which we're cheering to be strong also.
Yeah, Ruby has a lot of good stuff. Unbelief Duelist can apply a lot of pressure. Death Musk Assailant is really good. Lunge is a good combat trick. Skewer is pretty fantastic. Blade Master is also pretty fantastic. Blade Master is easy to remove, only has one defense, but with Swift Strike, it's hard to kill when it's attacking.
Right.
And the rest of it's fairly weak.
What about Pyro Knight?
Pyro Knight's okay, but it's really sort of something you include once the bulk of your deck is built and you're trying to work out what you put in. If you have a lot of extra troops, like you've got Spiritbound Spies and obviously the Pyre Soul Summoner, you might include it.
Okay.
If you got a lot of Swift Strike, you might include it as well.
And is Boomsmith generally considered good?
Yeah, Boomsmith's actually really good.
Okay, he seems like
it only does 2 damage and it costs 4 for a 2/1. But any card that's taking a card off of the opponent's board whilst adding one to your own generally is good because, you know, you're basically removing one of their cards for free.
So
you play a card and one of their cards goes and you get to keep a card.
Right. So looking at this so far, it feels like this goes along pretty well with the diamond because it's mostly the power is mostly in the cheaper guys. And so then it's like it becomes that cheaper, rushier deck that the blood diamond can churn out. So I look at that and I say, this deck looks pretty good. It doesn't blow me away, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does look pretty good with the diamond, and that's generally how it should be because there is an archetype which are specifically those 2 shards, and it's one of the stronger limited archetypes.
Right. Okay. So should we move on?
We shall.
Okay. Sapphire looks
Sapphire,
pretty bleak.
The cards you have are good. Like Incubation Webs and Throwback are both very, very good, but you only have 12 total cards, and 5 of them are borderline unplayable for you right now.
What are the 5? Is this one?
Sacred Seekers you have 2 of, and that's just not very good. Thunderfield Enchanter is too costly for what it does.
Right.
And the other one is, right now, your Broodguard. Like, Broodguard's a decent body for 3, but his effect is basically worthless.
Yeah.
That's the guy in the middle there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. When I looked through here, I thought the same thing. That it's not there. Sapphire's just not there. So I think we're back to what I was thinking originally. There's 3 colors that are viable. So now we have to figure it out. Green looks really good though.
It does, yes. Larch is great. Smashdown's great. Predatory Prey is a decent removal. Your Smash to the Grounds will count as whatever cost you play them for, because it's an X cost spell. So if you played that for 6, it would count as a 6 cost. So with Sylvan Performer out, if you played it for 5 or above, it would draw you a card off of that Sylvan Performer.
Oh, interesting. I see. I actually thought Sylvan Performer said when you play a creature or a troop.
It's just any card. So
that changes things.
Your Predatory Praise will trigger Performer, and so will your Smash to the Grounds as long as you play them for more than 5.
The problem is we don't have a lot of Crush guys to put it on. So that's like we could put it on Smashadon, but that's it.
Well, it doesn't necessarily need to be Crush. There are other types of evasion. It's also a quick action.
Okay.
So it can just be used on an unblocked troop.
Right. And do you think Rites of the Tranquil Dream is good? This card seems really great to me.
Yeah, it's also a quick action. So, and there aren't a lot of plays on turn 3 a lot of the time. But it basically gives 5 troops in your deck +1/+1, and you get one of them. Well, not 5 troops. Yeah. You look at 5 cards, and the revealed troops get +1/+1.
Your opponent doesn't see those, right? The reveal's only you?
No, you reveal to both players.
Okay, so it's... Because I was thinking the information was also useful, but it's actually information for both people.
And then, if you head over to your shardless as well.
Oh, what happened?
That's just your rewards from...
Oh, goodness. Scared the hell out of me. I thought I hit forfeit. I was like, what? No! Alright,
okay,
sorry about that.
Got Blamsack, which is useless.
Scrapyard. What? How could this be useless? It's a rare, Neo.
That's true. It's not useless. It's just very, very hard to play, and I wouldn't recommend it to a new player. Yeah. You have 2 Scrapyard Bruiser, which are pretty good.
Really?
Depending on which deck you're playing.
I guess if I'm playing a buff deck, yeah. Or
not just
that
a
other
buff deck, but if you're playing the Blood Diamond deck, which
Yeah.
focuses around sacrificing, you're
true.
essentially getting 2 troops for 1, so those triggers happen a little bit easier. And you know, just a troop you can block with, and then have another troop on board afterwards, even if it dies, is quite useful.
Sure. What about this resource optimizing infusion device?
Generally speaking, unless your thresholds are very demanding, like resource optimizing infusion device is something I would consider once I've completed the deck and I've looked at the thresholds and the resources in my deck, and maybe I would put it in if I need it in a dual shard deck. Most of the time, you're going to be wanting it for tri-shard decks just to help your fixing.
So you're
Generally
not using
speaking,
it as ramp.
you can use it as ramp, but it's not very efficient ramp, because if you're ramping on turn 3, it's, you know, you're not playing a card on turn 3 for 1, and for 2, like, it's just kind of late for ramp, honestly.
Gotcha. Okay.
It does work for ramp though, but a lot of the time you'll play it.
Okay. Thanks for the apologies.
A lot of the time you'll play it, and because you're playing cards on turn 3 and turn 4 and turn 5, you won't end up using it for a long time, but it can help.
Gotcha.
But mostly you're using it for the threshold fixing a lot of the time.
Okay. Cool. So out of these, depending on what we're playing, we're probably running Sin regardless, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I would basically say that we're running either Diamond or Wild, and both of those things are going to be run with Ruby. I mean, you could run Diamond and Wild together. That's a possibility, and not a terrible one, honestly.
I feel like we have a lot of good stuff in Ruby, though. Or do we not?
You do. You have 2 removals in Ruby. You have the Blade Masters, which work very well, because the Blade Masters actually, you pay 3, and they buff every elf you have by +1.
We do have quite a few elves if we go with the green deck.
The Wild, yeah. And I would say that generally speaking, Sin is obviously your best card. Like, Sin is the bomb. It's got flight. It lets you play things for free, and it costs 7. So in order to get to that, the best way you're going to be able to do that is by having those Lyricists and the Larch and the Minstrels. And also running Cressida.
Since Sin is so valuable, don't I get like 10 platinum every time I attack with them?
Yep, that's true.
Okay,
That's true.
yeah, that helps a lot as well. All right, so I mean, I thought initially we were probably going to go Wild Ruby. I think Diamond looks great, but I think it doesn't look quite great enough to lure me away from the Wild Ruby deck. Would that be your evaluation as well?
I would be vaguely tempted to run Wild Diamond here, but I would probably end up in Ruby Diamond. Not Ruby Diamond, Ruby Wild.
Gotcha.
And I'd be tempted to run Diamond Wild, because Chimera Guard on big troops is crazy strong. Like, Chimera Guard Fallen, which is the last card at the top there.
There, this guy.
When you can shift that ability onto another troop, and then when that troop attacks, it gets attacked equal to its defense. It's pretty strong on big guys, especially if they have Crush or whatever. Ethereal Call is really good. What you can do, if you had more Larches or more Ethereal Callers, it would be more of an easy choice to make. But the Wrathwood Larch you were looking at earlier, it doesn't create a shard when you play it for 6. You can pay 2 to discard it from your hand and create a shard. That's its ability. So it helps you with consistency if you're not hitting your shards. If you have it in hand, you can pay 2 to discard it to get a shard.
Okay. Yeah, that changes everything.
Or you can play it for 6 and it's a 4/6. But there's a combo with this guy and Ethereal Caller, because Ethereal Caller will take a troop from the graveyard and put it into play as a phantom. And there is a champion that will revert target troop. So there's a combo with these guys where you can ditch the Larch to get a shard. That goes to your graveyard. You play the Ethereal Caller on turn 3.
Sure.
You get the Larch out, and then you use Ovo, the charge power, to revert it back to a Larch, so you end up with a 4/6 on the board.
Oh, nice.
On turn 3.
On turn 3, that seems strong.
It's a pretty good combo. More manageable in draft, because you can pick the cards you want. Obviously, you can aim for the Callers and aim for the Larches.
Sure.
That's pretty good. And obviously, Fallen with big guys is pretty good. Plus, you get those 2 fairly decent removals in Pride's Fall as well.
Yeah, Pride's Falls. And Cry of Adamath as a finisher seems really strong as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it wouldn't be bad, but I still think that Ruby gives you the most options, because it gives you the early game that Diamond doesn't, and it gives you the lower cost removal that Diamond doesn't. So once you've decided sort of which two shards are your strongest,
What? Scheduled tournament canceled? Wasn't in a scheduled tournament. What
no,
is it
but
talking
that's
about?
just a global message.
Oh, okay. Wonder what tournament got canceled. The 2 p.m. sealed? That's too bad.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, wow. Glad I didn't plan for that. Okay. So
a
how
weird
do you
picture
build
here.
then? Do you just start dragging down the good cards?
No.
Okay.
How I build personally, not necessarily the correct way, but once you've picked your two shards, I filter down to just troops.
Okay. Let's see, how do I do that? One of these must be troops. Troop, first one. Okay. Just the troops.
Just the
All
troops. Then we sort by cost.
right. Okay. And
And
do you actually try to curve it out with this deck, or do you mostly just go for ramp and big guys?
well, the first thing I do is take the best cards. So,
Okay.
and you can double click. You don't need to drag them. Like you can just double click and they'll add.
Gotcha.
But Death Mask Assailant is pretty strong here.
Yep. The duelist.
I would probably leave those there for now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
So
just
you're
for now.
only going
Like,
for the real top cards.
I do it in order of sort of valuableness, and then minstrels and the two blade masters.
Where did I get the blade masters? Nope. Where are they? There they are. So the blade masters are better than the duelist. Oh, because
Yeah.
it's only while it's attacking.
Yeah, plus the blade master can buff everything.
Yeah,
That's an
that's
help
kinda
too.
crazy.
And then Boomsmith,
Okay.
Caribou, pretty much all of the cards past Caribou healer you want in there.
Did
Dryad's
you say
okay.
you do want Caribor?
Yeah, all of
Okay.
the cards past Caribou is what I would put in next.
Yeah.
Basically, you're aiming to get like 15 to 17 troops, but you don't want bad troops in, so you start with the really high quality ones, and then once you've got your high quality ones in like that, you then add in the extra ones so that now you do your duelists and
So I think what we do
Yes,
is we
sir.
play the summoner, and we play our 2 copies of that one that lets us get whatever mana we want, and just pray that it works.
it's not that good. It's not worth doing that for. It's definitely good in the shards, but it's not
Yeah,
probably not worth splashing.
that was a joke. What do you think about this Dryad reverting another troop? It feels like in another deck it could be amazing, in this deck not so much.
Dryad's not bad. In Gauntlet, it's probably worth main decking in Gauntlet, honestly. Normally I keep it in my reserves in draft because you get the reserves phase, so if you need that revert effect, you can bring it in.
Oh, there is no... Yeah, that's true. Yep, let's put it in. I forgot
And
about
then
that.
because of the Blade Masters, I would put the two duelists in because
Okay, because they're
again,
elves. So now they're
yeah,
3.
they're elves. They're elves with Swift Strike, so potentially
Yeah.
you can buff those up quite high because you're going to have quite a lot of resources.
What about this dude? Are we even
He's
considering him?
basically unplayable.
Okay.
You can only play him if 2 or more troops have entered play under your control this turn.
Yeah. This deck is not really set up to do that. And like when phantoms come out, do those count as troops?
Yeah,
Okay.
but again,
So
you don't. But the reason it's not very good is because it's a Shinhair. It's meant to work with Shinhair,
Right.
and they're not very well represented in this. You can easily get 2 troops out at once with some of the Shinhair cards on
Sure.
like turn 2, and then he becomes a 4/3 on turn 2. But you have to get those troops out manually with a deck in set 3. So he's basically just gonna come out on turn 4 or 5, and he's gonna be as big as a card that would come out on turn 4 or 5 anyway.
right.
Not many times where that card would come down early. I would probably put the 2 duelists in. Once I'm at 16, I tend to stop. The Niblin Skirmisher is pretty strong, but I probably would hold off on that for now and just go on to my actions.
Okay, really? You think the skirmisher is good? Is it just because he's kind of flexible? He's either early and fine, or he comes out later and he's still 3/3.
Well, he creates some interesting situations. So you play the Niblin on turn 1, and he's a 1/1 for 1. And then on turn 2, you can't really do a lot. If they haven't played a troop, you can swing for 1, which is always a good benefit to a 1/1 for 1. And then on turn 3, he becomes potentially a 3/3 because you can pay 3 to give it +2/+2 this turn. And most troops your opponent's going to play on turn 2 or 3 aren't as big as 3/3. They're probably going to be 2 attack, 2 on the back end, that kind of thing. So what it means is you can swing with the Nibbler, and if they block it, you probably kill. You kill without trading. It just they can't really block it. That's
Okay.
like in the early turns anyway. They can't
Sure.
really block it because if they have a 2/2, they either block it and they kill it. They get killed because it's a 3/3, or they let it through and you just play whatever else you're going to play that turn. And if you don't have a 3-drop, you can just use your resources to buff it and do 3 damage anyway. And then late game, once you're sort of like out of cards, you got 1 or 2 cards in your hand, and maybe you don't want to play them. Maybe you're completely top decking. You've got like 6 resources. That becomes a 5/5, and you can.
Sure. Oh
make it
yeah,
relevant
right. Because you
to
can
the
do it
game as
multiple
well.
times. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Okay, that's a really good point. Because I was thinking a 3/3 late game is not that good, but a 5/5 late game is totally fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
it's reusable.
Yeah. So you've turned me on him. All right, he's good. Okay, so we're thinking maybe he makes it.
Yeah, maybe. And probably he will. And then just go to constants. There are a couple of good constants, but not usually in these shards. I mean, they're possible, but I wouldn't put them in right now.
Yeah, those doing 1 each turn seems fine.
It's actually a legitimately decent finisher, but you have a lot of cards that are just better than that right now. Like you've got Smash to the Ground, which is one of the best cards in the game.
And then Predatory
Prey. In limited anyway. And then Predatory Prey, which is really strong. Triggers off of your Performer is great removal. Skewer's probably what you want here as well. Skewer is one of the only quick action removals in set 3.
Okay.
It deals 3 damage, and it does 3 damage to the player if you're killing something that has 1 defense.
Right.
So it's very good against those phantoms.
I assume we want Rites of the Tranquil Dream. Is there a number of events, or what are they called in this game? Actions, powers, what are they again?
The actions. But essentially, like the base that you're looking for in a limited deck is sort of like 16 troops, and then the rest of your cards, not troops, up to about 23. So you want 23...
Okay.
And about 16. There are obviously exceptions to that. But if you put in rights now, that's pretty much what you're looking for. The thing I would go back and forth between is maybe choosing between Dryad and Niblin Skirmisher.
Okay. So you're not at all interested in Vile Lash?
No. A lot of decks will have flyers that you can use that on, but if they don't have a flyer, Vine Lash is just going to be a dead card in your hand.
Gotcha. So would you say Vine Lash is substantially better in draft because I can just sub it in when I need to?
Okay. Yeah, and it tends to go late too.
Gotcha.
There is actually an archetype based around one of the champions. There's a champion that costs 2 charges, double sapphire threshold, and you can give any troop flight, including your opponent's troops. And there's sort of a draft archetype based around
that's funny,
giving your opponent's troops flight and then taking all the Vine Lashes and just shooting them out the sky once you put them in the air.
Gotcha.
Lunge is good. But a lot of your stuff, a lot of your early stuff has Swift Strike anyway.
That's what I was thinking.
And your late game stuff probably doesn't need it. So that's fine. First Blood's better in the Blood Diamond deck and better in the decks that put out a lot of troops. Sword play is only really useful if you have a lot of evasion. You don't. Your game here is basically Swift Strike early, Stompy late game, get to Sin.
Yeah.
And then Scorch can't really kill that much.
Like, Scorch seems pretty bad.
If you come up against a deck in draft where they've got a lot of 1 back-end troops, like it would be great against you because it would kill the Blade Masters, it would kill the duelists.
Right, and we decided we don't really want any of these artifacts as well.
Not really. Your 3 drops you have are better than the bruises. So
that's what I was thinking.
So
okay, so basically we're back to, do we want Nibbler or do we want...
yeah, basically once
else?
I've sort of got my 23, I'll just select everything again, but only select the shards I want.
Okay. So select all types, you're saying?
All types, yeah. So you can
just to go for one more pass.
And you just sort of see...
Oh, we have this.
Catches right.
We don't
Can't
want
really
this,
use
right?
that. You don't really want that.
we could, Neo, sub this in instead of a green shard.
But in this sort of pass, I would just say, maybe Skirmisher. I would weigh it against what I have and say that, judging by the amount of 3 drops I have, judging by the way my curve looks, I'm probably not going to get the chance to do that thing on turn 3 where I can swing with it.
Right.
I mean, I would have the chance, but I'm probably just going to want to play a 3 drop.
Right. And then as we move to like 6, we have 3 guys coming up for 6 anyway. We have plenty of big drops. We don't need that ability as much either.
Yeah. And then at this point, you click the middle tab above select champion
Oh, Oh, okay. Look at our
and
ratios.
go to resources, and then you see that
Oh, oh, wow.
you are 57% wild, 39% ruby. Your thresholds in wild on average are 1.5. Your thresholds in ruby are 1.3. And normally this kind of deck would be sort of 10 wild shards and 9 ruby shards because of that level of ratio. Like, because you're so much heavier in wild and there are a lot more heavy thresholds in the wild, you would probably want to go 10 wild and 7 ruby. But because you've got certain things in your deck that can generate wild resources, you've got the Merry Minstrels and you've got the Wrathwood Larch, you can probably make your deck a little bit more consistent here by going 9-8, because you are probably going to be able to get the double wild, whether it be through Merry Minstrels or Wrathwood Larch. And then having the 8 ruby helps you get more consistency in getting those early ruby drops down and getting the double threshold for those skewers.
Yeah, the skewers are the thing that worry me most about going too heavy the other way of going 10-7. I was looking through that. I was like, okay, most of the 2-drops are fine. And then I saw skewer and I was like, okay, I think we probably want to have closer to even. Especially if we look at it, most of the early drops for the wild don't need to. It's not until we get to the 5-drops that we need to.
Yeah, exactly. And also skewer it's good early if you don't have any other plays, but you do have a lot of early plays in this deck. So
yeah, this deck looks quite a bit different. The draft deck I just played had no early plays. It was all 5 and 6 drops. So this should play quite a bit more like a normal deck, it feels like.
Yeah, the curve isn't too bad here. And then you have 2 champion choices, really. For this kind of like big stompy deck, your choices are Cressida, and Might Singer Alindra. Yeah.
This deck feels kind of like a Might Singer deck because I don't have that many big boppers. But I don't know. Crescent is just hard for me to pass on that consistency.
It's definitely good to get the big guys down early, but it falls off quite drastically late game. As you say, you don't have a lot of big guys.
Sure.
But you do. Basically, my decision mostly is based on how much ramp I have in the actual deck and how much I need the extra big guys. And this is actually kind of a tough one to call because you do have quite a lot of big guys. But also, you have a lot of early plays too, so you can probably get by without dropping a big guy on turn 3 or what have you. And you do have a decent amount of ramp. You got 2 lyricists, one minstrels, 1 large. So getting to 7 might not be too difficult.
Yeah, I feel like we're sort of right in between. Like we have just enough big guys and just enough ramp where we don't need either one.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's kind of a tough decision. I don't know. I'd probably lean towards, I don't know, because it just doesn't feel like it needs to get that big guy down so early. I might get Alindra, but I also might get Cressida. I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, that's a tough call. I'm not sure. I may do something where I do one and then switch. I am allowed to switch in between games, right?
Yes, you can. Like you could, once you've played your first game, you could build a completely different deck.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm going to go for consistency. I'm kind of a wuss that way. All right, so here's the one thing, though. Actually, I'm not going to. Because what happened a lot of times last game is I had plenty of mana. I just didn't have both shards. And so Cassandra seems to, or whatever her name is, Cressida, seems to get you trapped into a situation where if you only get your wild, she doesn't help you. You actually have to find a ruby one.
That's true, but it can also get your sin down on like turn 5. If you have a lyricist out.
Okay, yeah, that's, you know what? That's pretty compelling. Cressida is her name. There we go. Got it. Let's see. 3 activated abilities also makes Cressida more attractive. That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah, it's definitely right on the cusp of the 2 for sure.
But then we have Shosny saying with double lyricist, Larch, and minstrels, he likes Might Singer.
Yeah.
So,
again,
I agree with both of you guys.
It's definitely right down the middle. And if you make sure you've got sleeves, because starting a tournament without sleeves is suicide.